Welcome back, everyone, to the Risk Intel podcast, powered by SRA Watchtower, where we share risk intelligence with experts from across the banking industry. I'm your host, Ed Vincent, CEO at SRA Watchtower. Hello, welcome to the Risk Intel podcast and the final episode of our Hidden Factory series, in which we will arm you with an actionable set of diagnostic questions to unearth the hidden factory within your financial institution. Rejoining me today is former auditor and bank risk officer Niki White. Niki, welcome back.
Thanks, Ed.
To recap briefly how we arrived at this point, we began by exploring one, what is a hidden factory? And two, what does one look like inside a financial institution? Our third episode highlighted the risk with allowing these hidden factories to persist and their impact on risk management activities. We then moved from the theoretical to the practical, with Niki, you sharing your socks in a box example, followed by examples of hidden factories enabling the monthly collection of collateral and policy data, and then the layering of work that occurred when a wire transfer program was enacted in our sixth episode. Most recently, we then quantified the cost of operating these hidden factories, noting that this will be an important input into the risk officer's business case to dismantle and move beyond these hidden factories. So today, in our eighth and final episode, Niki has returned to take us through the diagnostic process of uncovering hidden factories within your institution. So Niki, let's jump in.
Absolutely. I really wanted to start with reporting. Reporting has one of the best examples in one of the calls that we had with a prospect. We started talking about their data and how they were pulling their ERM reports together. And, I asked them if they had an inventory of all the reports that they issued and if they knew the source of the data. They looked at one report. We ended up tracing one number through 12 people and still never figured out where it came from. And so it was a significant data exercise on their side as they thought about improving their risk program and uncovering that hidden factory of where in the world those numbers started. So, one question is, do you have an inventory of all your reports? And do you know where the data comes from? Do you, either internal or external, do you often have to amend those reports or reissue them to correct errors? Because when you have a hidden factory, they're largely manual, they're touching many hands, they're flowing from place to place, and version control can be an issue. So those are some of the things that we look to when we think about it from a reporting perspective, and how that ultimately impacts management and the board of their ability to look at one number and trace to see which value is actually right.
That is right. I think everyone should be able to relate to this reporting question, right? That is just fundamental to everyone doing their job, and all those perils that you mentioned along the way also probably resonate with most folks. And I think those questions can be asked, as you said, of the practitioners there that are contributing all along those processes. So let me then pivot into a second category of questions around processes and operations themselves. The one set of questions might be, asking your colleagues, do you have a procedure around process change management? Right? Who documents this? Who's ultimately responsible? Who has the authority to enact change? Number two, are you measuring the efficiencies around your operational processes? And if so, are you seeing discrepancies in what's reported versus what is actually occurring? So is there a data capture issue there? That are people really disclosing the actions which they're taking? Have you audited any of these processes? And in that operational audit, have you had any findings around the efficiency or effectiveness of that process? And a final question in the operational process area is asking whether or not you have varying processes for a similar procedure. So, we explored this in one of our earlier episodes, where Sean Ryan shared an anecdote of sitting at his teller desk and having his stickies out on the desk there, and if he had a question on a transaction during the day, he would scratch down on the sticky. Niki, I know you have shared some lovely anecdotes in the past. Instead of stickies, you were a paperclip and rubber band user. So we all have our own little enabling pieces of quote unquote technology, right? Someone else may choose to make those corrections in real time. In either of those, in either of those three scenarios, right? The sticky, the paperclip and rubber band, or someone making a change in real time, you've now got three different, I'm going to call them QA steps that are occurring, right? For the same process, which is essentially balancing your drawer at the end of the day, right? So I think that the idea of going to the individuals who may be involved in a similar process or achieving a similar outcome, and finding out, are they actually following the same pathway to get there? So operations and processes is, I think another set of questions that can be explored.
Well, following on to operations and process, you're talking about people. People are executing on those operations and on those processes. And so thinking about my timeline of being an auditor and an auditee, how did the people come into play? And, when you think about, have any of your audit processes revealed control deficiencies that were caused by turnover? Sometimes someone leaves and a process ceases to happen. And all of a sudden you get 3 months down the road and you're like, hey, where's that report? And you realize the person wasn't there and the person who came into that seat just didn't pick that up. It wasn't on a checklist somewhere. It wasn't a formalized element of a defined process. So what happens if it ceases to happen? Or what happens if it happens in error, or if it fails to be reported correctly because there's been turnover in an individual? And I think also back to my earlier example of the chasing 12 different people and not even finding a number. But have you identified any processes that are highly dependent on one or a few key individuals? How many times do you ask the question that says, I need this thing, and someone says, oh, well, Sally does that and she won't be back till next week. What do we do if Sally's not there?
Right. It's the hit by the proverbial bus, right? It's that you have that single point of failure, the risk associated with that. And again, highlighting the fact that there's a factory that needs to operate in order for you to get to your answer. I think the last category that I'll highlight here is around budgeting and planning. And I think a whole host of questions can be explored here, right? One that really comes to mind is around resource allocation and evaluating what was originally budgeted versus what actually occurred, right? And that can occur through time tracking, can occur through other financial reporting systems, but how frequently do you go back and compare your headcount on an actual basis versus your plan and the work that those people are doing towards a given task? Do you look at staffing levels and costs on a monthly basis? Do you reforecast when market conditions change, right? And so this whole topic of budgeting and planning is I think an important one to explore as well. So Niki, we talked about reporting as one category. We talked about operations and processes as the second category, and personnel as a third category, and then budgeting and planning as a fourth category. Let me bring this back to how you run now, right? The process that you go through when you talk to a financial institution, because it feels like this is an approach that you take when you are exploring whether a hidden factory may exist within a financial institution. So folks can use this themselves, but you also use this similar playbook when your team is interacting with folks in the industry. Is that fair?
We do. And, really people come to us because they're experiencing a problem. They want to make a process more efficient. They want to have better reporting. They want to feel stronger about their data integrity. So we really lean into asking a lot of these questions to say, where is your process falling down? Where do you have concerns about the activities that are happening, or the people that are executing on them? Do they need some training? Do they need support with a system? Do they need some guidance on what content, or are they starting with a blank sheet of paper? Anything that is built homegrown and circulated throughout the institution has a risk of error, or inefficiencies, or both. And so that's really, these questions align very closely with the process we go through with our prospects and our clients.
Well, whether someone wants to go through a diagnostic process like this themselves, or whether they want to have an outside colleague come in, whether it is someone like one of the colleagues on your team, Niki, or any trusted advisor, right? I think the key is get into the diagnostic, ask the questions, unearth the issues, be transparent, right? That's the best way, to surface these hidden factories. This isn't designed to be a one-size-fits-all exhaustive list that we just went through here, but it is a set of diagnostic questions that will get you started on the journey to uncover your financial institution's hidden factory. Using answers to these questions to next quantifying the associated costs, as we discussed in our previous episode, that gets you well on the way to making your business case. So ask the questions, get the answers, quantify the cost of operating these hidden factories. That gets you towards that business case that allow you to mitigate your institution's risks by dismantling and moving beyond these hidden factories. Anyone interested in accessing the simple diagnostic can do so on our website at srarisk.com, and I'm certainly happy to make our team available to help answer any of these questions as well, or take you through this process. Niki, thanks again for your thoughts today. Greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely. Happy to wrap up this session with you.